we want to share with you a little bit about the study criteria that we used as a part of developing some of these alternatives. On the left, we have the interstate criteria. Again, I-794, the Hoan Bridge, is an interstate freeway. And so we looked at the 12-foot travel lane widths, as well as the shoulder widths. Presently, we have 6-foot sort of inside or left lanes out on the Hoan Bridge, as well as 10-foot right shoulder or outside shoulders for breakdowns or emergencies. Those could actually be reduced to a minimum of 4 feet and 8 feet. Again, it's not desirable, but applying our objective engineering criteria, it is something that would be allowable. And then vertical clearances over the various things. I think for those of you who really dug into the report, at varying times we were going over the freeway, under the freeway, over railroads, over the river, not through the woods. But we did also have a suspended path. And so all of those things, again, meeting our engineering criteria that we apply for all freeways, we wanted to make sure that we applied here. Now with the shared use path criteria, we looked at a 14-foot wide path. Again, thinking back to the safe and efficient system that we're operating to or wanting to plan here, that traffic operations and safety led us to go with a 14-foot wide. That's the desirable, if you will, from the department's perspective for the width of the path. From a safety standpoint, let me just say this again. All of our alternatives include a 42-foot high, or 42, wow, that would be really high, a 42-inch high concrete vertical barrier, as well as outside fencing. And so there would be physical separation between the automobiles and the folks on the bike and ped path. Again, because pedestrian loading is different than vehicle loading, we also took into account the pedestrian bridge load, as well as, again, as I mentioned, the ADA compliance when it came to the access ramps and grades. So that gives you kind of a sense of the various engineering things that we took into account as we then, starting with a fairly clean palette, began looking at alternatives. Once again, for those of you down at Beulah Brenton in August, you may have recalled that I described the 4 primary alternatives. The first alternative is generally basically removing a travel lane on one of the structures and not making any structural modifications beyond what's up there right now. Second alternative was to maintain that travel lane and then widen the existing structure to accommodate the shared use path. The third alternative was to go either above or below the existing freeway. And then the final alternative, number 4, was a separate structure off to the side. Because as you recall that I mentioned before, we're building this improvement to last a minimum of 40 to 50 years. No temporary configurations were looked at, only permanent ones. And of those 11 total alternatives, 6 were eliminated for a variety of reasons relating to feasibility. The most prominent of those being the one that would hang beneath I-794. And that resulted in 5 alternatives being carried forward. Alternative 1A, and again, I think you'll also see, once we get into this part of the presentation, these specific renderings are also included on the boards that are not only here within our cafeteria, but are also located in the hallway down a little further down here. But the first alternative would reduce the northbound Interstate 794 from its existing 3 travel lanes to 2. And the shared use path would be shown there on the east side of the structure. We developed an estimate for that for year 2011 delivery costs, including the costs for design and construction, as well as for those things which we may encounter in the field, of approximately $9.4 million. Now, I just want to point out on those the 2 red ellipses, ovals, that you see there, that's a pair of instances where we have reduced the shoulder width from what's out there existing. The inside shoulder and the outside shoulder would be reduced, each be reduced by 2 feet, so it would be 4 foot on the inside as compared to 6, and then 8 foot on the outside as compared to the existing 10. Alternative 1B, again, removes a lane of northbound traffic, but rather than have the shared use path on the east side of the structure, Instead, it would be in the center of the structure. And with that, because a little bit of that, the bike path or the shared use path itself would be kind of overlapping that 4-foot gap, because again, vehicles aren't necessarily going to be driving there. That's only or heavy vehicles, it's only the shared use path. We only see a 2-foot reduction on the inside shoulder. With this one, the cost is $27.5 million, and in part that's due to the need to actually go up over the freeway at the south end and then to go underneath and around the freeway at the north end. The third alternative that we have here, alternative 2A, there would be no reduction in travel lanes. It would keep the 3 northbound lanes, and instead that northbound structure would need to be widened in order to accommodate the shared use path. With this one, the estimated cost for delivery of that was $76.4 million. Can you see the red arrow from the back? Oh, good. It's a thickness of 4 for the PowerPoint junkies. That I wanted to show you is what we had to do when we get to the tied arch itself, which is the thing that looks like an arch of a certain fast food restaurant, is that because there was insufficient room to keep the path right next to the roadway and keep it on the inside of the arch, it would simply have to go around the outside. From the user of the path perspective, it's not something that's really noticeable, but it does create some other challenges that we'll talk about a little bit later. This is my second favorite drawing because it's engineering-like here. It was also in the draft report, but basically explains a little bit about kind of why the cost of that one also goes up to 76 million. Basically, if you can see the bold-faced structural members there in the upper right of the screen, those are that's the new steel that would support the shared use path. But if you look at this Y shape of the pier, the piers were very economical when they were designed back in the 1970s. And so we were not able to put additional weight over at the very edge of the pier and be able to support it with the existing pier. And so what you see, the bold-faced pier, that is new piers that we would need to construct and that would actually carry the weight of that shared use path down into the ground to be able to accommodate it. The fourth alternative, alternative 3B, again, there's no reduction in travel lanes with that one. It takes the shared use path up above I-794. And if you'll notice here in the red box, it's 17 foot 9 inches from the pavement surface to the bottom of that structure. So, and that again is consistent with our interstate highway criteria. And then the overall estimated delivery cost for that would be $95.5 million. The final alternative, the fifth alternative, but called alternative 4, once again, no reduction in travel lanes and basically builds a parallel structure approximately 30 feet minimum offset from the existing Hoan bridge structure. Now in this specific case, that 30 foot is what I have circled there. And again, because of its crossing over the Milwaukee River, it needs to, at the very middle of it, be at the same height, as well as to have the same lateral clearance across the river in order for that port traffic to get through.